First here, first like love, I have to take a shot. Oh my god. Hey Deb. Hey Mama 3. Somebody had told me to look into this. I'm pretty sure it was Tammy, but I actually haven't seen her in a while. So she was like asking me about these the acid bath murders. I never heard of them. Have you guys heard of them? So I thought I'd take a look into it. This guy named John Hay. So this happened years ago, but I haven't even read it or anything, so I'm just going right into it. I got my little co-star. Probably hear her purring. You haven't heard of it either? Okay. So I just went to Wiki. No, don't go on there. So he's a serial killer. His name is John George Hay. Looks like he was born in 1909. Yeah, the 24th of July, 1909, and I think he passed August 10th, 1949. He's commonly known as the acid bath murderer. He was an English serial killer convicted for the murder of 6 people, although he claimed to have killed 9. Hay battered to death or shot his victims and disposed of their bodies using sulfuric acid before forging their signatures so he could sell their possessions and collect large sums of money. His actions were the subject of the television film A is for Acid. Really? I haven't seen that film. A is for Acid. I might have to check that out. So that's what he looks like. This is a police photograph. He was 40 years old when he died. So his early life, it says John Hay was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire, and raised in the village of Outwood, West Riding of Yorkshire. His parents were engineer John Robert Hay and his wife Emily, members of the Plymouth Brethren, a conservative Protestant section. Hay later claimed that he suffered from recurring religious nightmares in his childhood. He developed great proficiency at the piano, which he learned at home. He was fond of classical music and often attended concerts. Hay won a scholarship to Queen Elizabeth Grammar School, Wakefield, then to Wakefield Cathedral, where he became a choir boy. After school, he was apprenticed to a firm of motor engineers. After a year, he left that job and took jobs in insurance and advertising. Insurance and advertising. At age 21, he was dismissed after being suspected of stealing from a cash box. After being fired, he moved on to forging car documents. I've never heard of this one. Hey, Teresa. Hey, Benita. Hey, Cool Gamer. Have any of you guys heard of this? The new, like Teresa or Benita or Cool Gamer, you guys ever heard of this guy? John George Hay? Or is it George John Hay? The acid bath murderer. All right, so this is his marriage and imprisonment. So he claims he's killed 9 people, but they only know of for sure 6. So his marriage and imprisonment. On July 6th, 1934, Hay married 23-year-old Beatrice Betty Hamer. The marriage soon disintegrated. The same year that Hay was jailed for fraud, Betty gave birth while he was in prison, and she placed the baby girl for adoption and left Hay. Hay's conservative family ostracized him from the onwards. Hay moved to London in 1936 and became chauffeur to William McSwan, a wealthy owner of an amusement arcades. He also maintained McSwan's amusement machines. Thereafter, he pretended to be a solicitor named William Cato Adamson, with offices in Chancery Lane, London, Guildford, Surrey, and Hastings, Sussex. He sold fraudulent stock shares, purportedly from the estates of his deceased clients, at below market rates. His scam was uncovered by someone who noticed he had misspelled Guildford as Guildford on his letterhead. Hay received a 4-year prison sentence for fraud. Hay was released just after the start of the Second World War. He continued as a fraudster and was sentenced to several further terms of imprisonment. Regretting that he had left victims alive to accuse him, he became intrigued by French murderer Georges Alexandre Serret, who had disposed of bodies using sulfuric acid. Hay experimented with field mice, and found that it took only 30 minutes for the body to dissolve. Wow. So he just wants to steal for the rest of his life to make money and fraud. That's all he wants to do is just complete fraudulent things. And instead of having witnesses, he wants to kill them in a bath of acid. What the hell? Yeah, that's a little fucky. No, right, Deb, I haven't heard of it either. It was oh my God. You know, she's hilarious. Tammy, the one-armed wonder, her. She was the one who mentioned it to me. It was I don't know how long ago. Probably about a month ago, maybe a little longer. And I had wrote it down and I forgot about it, of course. But I was looking through because I'm like, what can I do? I'm sure I've got stuff written down, and I remember seeing it, the acid bath murder. I was like, oh yeah, I want to look into that. So this was done in England, I guess. Now it says acid bath murders. So Hay was freed from prison in 1943. He died in 49 though, right? The date apprehended was 1949. Yeah, he died at age 40, 1949. So he wasn't really out much. So he was freed from prison in 1943. He only had 5 years left to live. Wow. So he was freed from prison in 1943 and became an accountant with an engineering firm. How does that possible when he's such a fraud? And that's weird. You would think he's not trusted with money. Soon after, by chance, he bumped into his former employer, William McSwan, in Kensington pub. McSwan introduced Hay to his parents, Donald and Amy. McSwan worked for them by collecting rents on their London properties, and Hay became envious of his lifestyle. Uh-oh. On the 6th of September 1944, McSwan disappeared. Hay later admitted he had lured McSwan into a basement on Gloucester Road, hit him over the head with a lead pipe, and then put his body in a 40 imperial gallon drum with concentrated sulfuric acid. 2 days later, finding that McSwan's body had mostly dissolved, Hay emptied the drum into a manhole. How would somebody in, like, even in, how would anybody get that much acid to burn a body? Like, I don't understand. Where would you go to get that? He told McSwan's parents that their son had gone into hiding in Scotland to avoid being called up for military service. Hay then began living in McSwan's house. Oh my gosh. And collecting rent from McSwan's parents. They became curious as to why their son had not returned as the war was coming to an end. On the 2nd July 1945, he lured them to Gloucester Road by telling them their son was back from Scotland for a surprise visit. There he killed them with blows to the head and disposed of them. Hay then stole McSwan's pension checks and sold his parents' properties for around, I don't know, 8,000, and moved into the Onslow Court Hotel in Kingston. Hay was a gambler. By 1947, he was running short of money. To solve his financial problems, he found another couple to kill and rob, Archibald Henderson and his wife Rose. After feigning interest in a house that they were selling, he was invited to the Hendersons' flat by Rose to play the piano for their housewarming party. While at the flat, Hayes stole Archibald Henderson's revolver, planning to use it in his next crime, renting a small workshop at 2 Leopold Road, Crawley, West Sussex. He moved acid and drums there from Gloucester Road. Hay was also known to have stayed at Crawley's hotel, the George, on several occasions. On the 12th of February 1948, he drove Archibald Henderson to his workshop on the pretext of showing him an invention. When they arrived, Hay shot Henderson in the head with the stolen revolver. Hay then lured Rose Henderson to the workshop, claiming that her husband had fallen ill, and he shot her as well. All because he doesn't want to work? After disposing of the Hendersons' bodies in oil drums filled with acid, he forged a letter with their signatures and sold all of their possessions for 8,000, except for their car and dog, which he kept. I'm glad he didn't harm the dog, but like, there's 4 victims. Oh wow, Teresa. I was gonna say, yeah, try and keep yourself awake till at least 9, then go to bed, but you're up, what, like every 4 hours anyways. So his last victim in capture. Hay's next and last victim was Olive Duran Deacon, 69, the wealthy widow of solicitor John Duran Deacon and a fellow resident at the Onslow Court Hotel. Hay by then was calling himself an engineer, and Olive mentioned an idea to him that she had for an artificial fingernails. He invited her down to the Leopold Road workshop on 18th February 1949, and once inside, he shot her in the back of the neck with a 38 caliber Webley revolver that he had stolen from Archibald Henderson, stripped her of her valuables, including a Persian lamb coat, and put her into the acid bath. 2 days later, Duran Deacon's friend Constance Lane reported her missing. So that's 5 victims. Detectives soon discovered Hay's record of theft and fraud and searched the workshop. Well, it's about time. Police found Hay's attache case containing a dry cleaner's receipt for Olive Duran Deacon's coat and also papers referring to the Hendersons and McSwans. The workshop in Sussex, rented by Hay, did not contain a floor drain, unlike the workshop he had rented at Gloucester Road in London. He, therefore, disposed of the remains by pouring out the container on a rubble pile at the back of the property. Investigation of the area by pathologist Keith Simpson revealed 28 pounds of human body fat, part of a human foot, human gallstones, and part of a denture, which was later identified by Olive Duran Deacon's dentist during trial. Holy. Hay asked Detective Inspector Albert Webb during questioning, "Tell me frankly, what are the chances of anybody being released from Broadmoor, a high security psychiatric hospital?" The inspector said that he could not discuss that sort of thing. So Hay replied, "Well, if I told you the truth, you would not believe me. It sounds too fantastic to believe." Hay then confessed that he had killed Duran Deacon, the McSwans, and the Hendersons, as well as 3 other people, a young man called Max, a girl from Eastbourne, and a woman from Hammersmith. These claims could not be substantiated. Okay, he was executed. I thought so. I was going to say. So Hay's trial was held at Lewes Assizes. No, I don't know how to say that. Lewes what? Assizes? Hay pleaded insanity, claimed that he had drunk the blood of his victims. He said he had dreams dominated by blood as a young boy. When he was involved in a car accident in March 1944, his dream returned to him. "I saw before me a forest of crucifixes, which gradually turned into trees. First, there appeared to be a dew or a rain dripping from the branches, but as soon as I approached, I realized it was blood. The whole forest began to wither and the trees, dark and erect, to ooze blood. A man went from each tree catching the blood. When the cup was full, he approached me. 'Drink,' he said, but I was unable to move." The Attorney General, Sir Hartley Shawcross, apparently later was Lord Shawcross, led for the prosecution and urged the jury to reject Hay's defense of insanity because he had acted with malice aforethought. Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, KC defending, called many witnesses to attest to Hay's mental state, including Henry Yellowlees, who claimed Hay had a paranoid constitution, adding, "The absolute callous, cheerful, bland, and almost friendly indifference of the accused to the crimes which he freely admits have committed is unique in my experience." Hay apparently had believed mistakenly that if the bodies of his victims could not be found, a murder conviction would not be possible. It took only minutes for the jury to find him guilty. Mr. Justice Humphreys sentenced him to death on 10th August 1949. Hay drank a brandy just before being hanged by executioner Albert Pierrepoint. The case was one of the post 1945 cases which gained considerable coverage in the newspapers, even though Hay's guilt was not questioned. The editor of the Daily Mirror, Sylvester Bolam, was sentenced to a 3-month prison term for contempt of court for describing Hay as a murderer while the trial was still underway. That's stupid. He was a murderer. His confirmed victims are the McSwan family, so that was husband and wife, William Donald McSwan and Donald Amy McSwan, the Henderson family, Archibald Rosalie Henderson and Henrietta Helen Olivia Roberts Duran Deacon. The release of the 1949 British film noir Obsession was delayed by the British Board of Film Censors due to similarities in its plot to the Haigh case. The Haigh case was dramatized in the episode The Jar of Acid on the 1951 radio series The Black Museum. Hide My Eyes by Marjorie Allingham, written in 1958, mirrors the Haigh case though indirectly. The mid 1960s, unproduced Hitchcock project Kaleidoscope had been inspired by Haigh and serial killer Neville Heath. Oh, it's unproduced. I would have liked to see that. Kaleidoscope, but it's not even produced. The role of Haigh was played by Martin Clunes in the ITV drama A is for Acid. Nigel Fares played Haigh in the Big Finish audio drama In Conversation with an Acid Bath Murderer. That came out in 2011, which he also wrote. The cast included Richard Franklin as Archie Henderson, Mandy Simons as Olive Duran Deacon, and Louise Jameson, who also directed the movie, as Rose Henderson. It was released as the fourth installment in their drama showcase anthology series. For some years, Hay's waxwork was exhibited in the Chamber of Horrors at Madame Tussauds in London. Oh, was it really? I want to go there so bad. You guys ever heard of that? The Museum of Wax? That's all right, Teresa. It's a great movie. I'd love to go to that, the Chamber of Horrors at Madame Tussauds in London. That'd be amazing. The stage play Under a Red Moon by Michael Slade is a fictional account of Hay's examination by psychiatrists before his trial. Stage play Wax by Michael Punter is based upon a fictional meeting between Haigh and a woman, Anna, an artist from Madame Tussauds, who models his waxwork for exhibition in the Chamber of Horrors while he is in the condemned cell. The Criminal Minds episode Masterpiece is inspired by Haigh. Does anybody watch Criminal Minds? I haven't seen that forever. I want to watch it. Can never find a pen when I need one. Like ever. I got a Sharpie. Oh, masterpiece. American thrash death metal grindcore band Macabre recorded a song about Haigh from their murder metal album called Acid Bath Vampire. Oh my god. Japanese stoner doom metal band Church of Misery recorded a song about Haigh entitled Make Them Die Slowly, John George Haigh. The track was released on the album And Then They Were None. In the oh my god, in the video game Clock Tower 3, the enemy corroder is subordinate, created from the ghost of a serial killer who disposed of his victims in drums filled with acid. The acid he uses to dispose of the two characters he kills on screen and to attack Alyssa, along with other dialogue in the game, indicate that he is meant to be a version of John Haigh who was turned into a subordinate. However, the game gets several details incorrect, such as the time when Haigh committed the murders. Wow. There's also four more here. It says the list of serial killers in the United Kingdom. Murder conviction without a body. John Martin Scripps, another executed British serial killer and con artist. Teodoro Garcia Simontel, Mexican murder and drug lord who drowned bodies in sodium hydroxide. Wow. Oh, careful. Hey, Patty. Yeah, it's interesting, eh? There's something else I found too. I'm gonna move my move. The story of John George Haigh, the acid bath murderers, is just as gruesome as his nickname suggests. He looks like an actor, does he not? Like those old movie star actors. So long before Walter White dissolved bodies in his bathtub, John George Hay used sulfuric acid to cover up his crimes. He looks like an old school Hollywood actor. John George Hay, also known as the acid bath murderer. Doesn't he? I think it is. He does, eh? So in February of 1949, police raided a warehouse on Leopold Road in West Sussex, owned by John George Hay. Inside, they found several 40-gallon drums and containers of concentrated sulfuric acid. Outside, they found 28 pounds of melted human body fat, part of a human foot, human gallstones, and a part of a denture. It was clear to investigators from the acid inside what had happened. Hay had murdered someone and dissolved their body in acid to hide his crime. Breaking Bad style. However, what would become more shocking over the course of the investigation was that he had done it before and had planned to do it again, had it not been for one small misstep. John George Hay had not started out a killer. He had been born into an affluent conservative family in Yorkshire, grew up attending classical musical concerts, and was awarded several scholarships throughout his academic life. That's the thing, he was very privileged. He had the best in everything. So I don't, something to do with religion that messed him up. His charmed adolescence ended at the age of 25 when he was arrested and jailed for fraud just months after marrying. Upon his imprisonment, his new bride left him, and his conservative relatives decided they wanted nothing to do with him. Investigators at the crime scene outside the warehouse where John George Hay killed Olive Duran Deacon. That's the crime scene? That must be in the, oh, it's the backyard when he dumped the remains. After serving just 2 years, John Hay was released from prison and moved to London, where he became a chauffeur. However, despite serving time for fraud, he continued to swindle unsuspecting do-gooders out of their money. He would pretend to be a solicitor named William Adamson. He would frequently sell fraudulent stock shares from the states of his dead clients at below market rates. Eventually, he was caught when one of his clients realized he had misspelled his false name on a legal document. In 1939, he was arrested and imprisoned again, this time sentenced to 4 years for fraud. While in prison, Hay realized that his biggest downfall was that he had left his fraud victims alive to report crimes. Oof. The truth about side sleepers. Anyways. I think they contribute, Deb. I think so. But it's almost like it depends on the person. Like, I don't know, two children growing up in similar atmospheres, like next door neighbors, say, and literally, I don't know, same atmosphere but different parents and different whatnot, and they could both grow up like that, and one can be good and the other one just can't be. It's so strange. A shit heel is a shit heel. I don't think it's an excuse at all. I don't know. Like, I've never understood abusers or an abused person turning into the abuser. That doesn't make sense to me because I could never do that. And I know obviously you guys can never do that. So I don't understand. Having something like that done to you, how could you do that to somebody else? I do not understand that part. Hay spent the rest of his time in prison devising ways to dispose of any witnesses to the crimes that he fully intended to continue committing upon his release. He began researching the French murderer Georges Alexandre Serret, whose signature had been dissolving his victims in sulfuric acid. Using his free time, he devised his own method of dissolving bodies in various forms of acid by practicing on mice. Eventually, he found that it took 30 minutes for a small field mouse to dissolve and was able to calculate how much acid and time he would need for a full grown man. 4 years later, free from prison and armed with this macabre knowledge, John George Hay took a job at an engineering firm in the accounting department. Like, how could he get that job in the accounting department when he's a known thief and a fraud? That I don't understand. Soon after, he ran into an old friend named William McSwan, whom he had worked as a chauffeur for. McSwan told him about his new venture as a landlord, collecting rent from the tenants who stayed in his parents' multiple properties. That's him during his trial. Though he had a well-paying job at the engineering firm, Hay became jealous of McSwan's seemingly lavish lifestyle and the little effort he seemed to put into it. A few months after bumping into him, Hay lured McSwan to an abandoned basement and hit him over the head. Using his newfound disposal method, Hay put McSwan's body into a 40-gallon drum, filled it with concentrated sulfuric acid. 2 days later, McSwan was nothing more than 100 or so pounds of sludge, which Hay poured down a manhole. Oh my God. Riding the high of his successful murder, Hay took over McSwan's landlord duties, telling McSwan's family that he had run away to avoid being drafted. Eventually, when the elder McSwans became suspicious, as their son had not returned home even after the draft was over, John George Hay killed them as well. Left with their money and their properties, Hay moved into the Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. However, the roughly 10,000 he had sold stolen didn't last long, as he shortly developed a gambling problem. Running through his cash quicker than he expected, Hay was forced to find another wealthy couple to kill and rob. I don't know why he just couldn't work. After feigning interest in a house that was for sale, he murdered the owners, Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rose. Both Hendersons were disposed of at a warehouse in Gloucester, where McSwan family had also been killed. The warehouse seemed to be the perfect place, as it was relatively remote, contained a manhole where the human sludge could be easily disposed of. That's Olive Duran Deacon, John George Hay's last victim. Hey, Kimmy. After the murders, John Hay rented a larger warehouse on Leopold Road with more space of his drums and acid concoctions. Here, he would kill and dissolve his final victim. Olive Duran Deacon was a wealthy widow who lived at the Onslow Court Hotel with Hay. Olive thought herself something of an inventor, and upon finding out that Hay worked at an engineering firm, asked if she could talk to him about an idea she had for artificial fingernails. Hay took the opportunity to lure her to his warehouse and murder her there. Olive and Duran Deacon. Olive Duran Deacon was the body that investigators discovered outside the Leopold Road warehouse. You see, unlike Hayes' previous disposal grounds, the Leopold Road warehouse had no floor drain and no manhole access. Unable to pour the sludge quietly into the sewers, Hay had been forced to dump it in a pile of rubble behind the warehouse, where it was easily uncovered by investigators. I just couldn't imagine the smell. Upon the discovery of Olive Duran Deacon's body, Hay was arrested and charged with murder. Now known in popular media as the acid bath murderer, he pleaded insanity and claimed that drinking the blood of his victims had driven him mad, though there was no evidence that he had, in fact, consumed human blood. I don't think he did either. After hearing his insanity defense, one of the arresting officers mentioned to the prosecutors that Hay had asked him what the chances were of being released from a psychiatric hospital versus prison. The jury then took only minutes to return a guilty verdict on Hay, sentencing him to death. On August 10th, 1949, John George Hay was executed for his crimes. Ugh. Oh, hell no. Now that you've read about John George Hay, the acid bath murderer, read about the gruesome history of serial killer Edmund Kemper. Then check out the story of Carl Panzram. No thanks. The most cold blooded killer in history. Nah, I'm good. Oh, there's a new trial coming up for Canada. So I'm just seeing if there's anything on YouTube. Forgot to look. Hey, Harvey, what's up? Well, why would it just work? That's what I asked. I will never understand. It is impossible. Yeah, like we're intrigued by them, but you can't relate, right? That's why I'm asking. Oh, I guess well, obvious stupid question. Why can't he just work? Stupid question, I know, but I don't understand it. Murder Maps. That looks like a good episode. Oh, you guys ever hear about Mary Bell? 11 years old. She killed that little boy in London. Oh, what the fuck? Popping pores on a dead iguana? Very satisfying ASMR. What is wrong with people? That is disgusting, and that is cruel and mean, and wow. Go to for the ASMR? What the hell? So this says a sadistic acid breath murder by Murder Maps. Did you do a video on Mary Bell? Why don't skid mark work? I don't know. Yeah, Patty. So this is a show. You guys ever heard of Murder Maps? I have. I haven't watched it forever. Check it out. This was done a year ago.
As to John Haig's future, the only book in the house
That's what I said. I think it was something to do with religion that messed him up. I'm not exactly sure what.
was the Bible.
What if we told you that the hottest casino in town was actually
Newspaper sadistic streak.
I haven't seen this picture. He also had a very sadistic streak. That's hard to play that organ. Like, I mean, really hard. I've heard that it's really hard.
At an early age, he decided for himself there really was nothing in religion. He was the master of his own ends. And maybe due to the fact that he had the superiority that it felt coming down the family line, he would bully.
Yeah, he has a superiority, though, I think, from his parents. They think they're better than everybody, so they allowed their son to think that he's better than everybody, if that makes sense. Fatty.
Fictitious shares in companies.
His draftsmanship skills were immense. Many people thought he was one of the best forgers Britain ever had.
How do you do that with no cars and no customers? That's weird. One of the best forgers Britain ever had, I bet.
He could copy someone's handwriting without any fluctuation. He was a great con man.
Wow.
He'd spend hours practicing in front of a mirror doing different facial expressions. Classic psychopathic thing, really, to look into a mirror and actually
Wow.
take on that chameleon look of having a total facade of your expression.
That's why I wanted to watch this, because even though I read those articles and stuff, not everything was in it, including photos and stuff that I'm learning.
He longed for a lifestyle legitimate employment could not give him. By 1949, he had advanced to more serious crimes. By this time, Haigh was living in London. There he resided at the Onslow Court Hotel in South Kensington. He was a rare, younger bachelor. Most of the residents in the upmarket establishment were elderly women, but Haigh was a man who always enjoyed feeling special. Among the other residents was a wealthy widow named Olive Durand Deacon. Haigh paid particular attention to the 68-year-old. He charmed the older woman, steadily worming his way into her confidence over meals in the dining room. It was there And Mrs. Durand Deacon must have told Haigh about her business idea for artificial fingernails. Haigh styled himself an engineer and
Does anybody know why, like even back then in the Ripper days, but even in the 40s and stuff, why people choose to live in hotels? I don't understand that. Oh yeah, he does think he's hot shit. I don't think it was a mugshot. Or maybe it was actually. Oh, what happened? Did something happen? Probably. You can never do anything. I got rid of it. I hate that. I'm back. Fine. I'll go over to this one then. Wait, what is this? Oh yeah, something that was happening in Canada. So apparently, this trial begins at Montreal courthouse for a pair charged in organized crime slaying. This guy's name is France Lewis, 49, was shot 6 times on November 19th, 2020, at point blank range in the head and upper body. Jury began hearing evidence Wednesday at the Montreal courthouse in the trial of 2 men charged with killing a well-known organized crime figure in cold blood in the Villeray St. Michael Park Extension borough in 2020. I never even heard of this. So Emmanuel Roberts Hunt, 24, and Andrew Thomas Labreche, 25, are charged with the first-degree murder of France Lewis. In his opening statement to the jury, prosecutor Philip A. Rowland said the 49-year-old victim was shot 6 times on November 19, 2020, at point-blank range in the head and upper body. The prosecutor also said that he used his own car as the gateway vehicle in the slaying, and Hunt was the shooter. So on November 19th, Labreche waited patiently in a Subaru while Hunt coldly killed the victim in his BMW, firing 6 shots point blank at him. After he fired at France, Lewis through the window of his car. Hunt ran for his life toward Labreche's black Subaru. Hunt rapidly entered his black car, unwittingly leaving thumbprints on the back passenger door. This mistake would later help the investigation team to go get him because, as an expert will explain to you, thumbprints are unique. So I don't understand. What is this? So what? They killed a mob boss? So a pair charged in organized crime slaying. So isn't that? I mean, murder's not always good, but so what? He was a mob boss and 2 people took him out. I don't know. Let's listen to this, I guess.
15, I present myself as a chief to become a chief, and I was just chosen. And you know what? Good, good. I wasn't ready. It was in 2015 a dream, and finally my dream happened in Longueuil, and it was a perfect place to test it. One day asked me to come back. A few times I mentioned no, no, thank you, because I didn't finish what I was doing in Longueuil. But at one point I was saying to myself, Fadi, what else can you bring more in Longueuil? You and your team did everything. Now it's time maybe to finish what you started in Montreal. It's time to go back. All the action plan, all the strategy of Longueuil was created with the citizen. So whatever strategy I was going to implement in the police of Longueuil, the citizen had a say in it. The population, we went on the, we did the, how you
What the
call it,
fuck is he talking about?
consultation in the community. And it was an independent organization who did the consultation, l'Institut Nouveau Monde. And they asked the community, what kind of policing you want? What kind of police officer you want? What kind of approach you want? What kind of service you want? So after getting all the answer, we built our action plan, the strategic plan for the next years. So it wasn't something coming from Fadi or coming only from the inside. It was coming from the troops, but also from the population. I think that's why we had amazing success, because we didn't
I have
feel
no
it was
idea what
like
the fuck this guy's
my
talking about.
business or my organization. It was our organization. The population.
No clue. So it says the prosecutor also said surveillance cameras and GPS location data helped investigators track the exit route. So Lebrecht took before Lewis was killed from LaSalle to Chateauguay and to Villeray and then back to Chateauguay and LaSalle where Lebrecht lived. They were together for about 2 hours. Lebrecht was arrested by SWAT team at his workplace just hours after Lewis was shot. Why were the police able to get to Lebrecht so quickly, you may wonder. It's simple. One of our witnesses was quick enough to note the license plate of the getaway car. It happened very fast, the prosecutor said, adding the man only managed to jot down 5 of the 6 digits on the plate. A Montreal police major crimes investigators is expected to testify about how he sees Lebrecht's cell phone after he was arrested. A cell phone is a centerpiece of evidence for the Crown to understand the planning and the pre-intimidation behind the murder of Franz Lewis, an important organized crime figure in Montreal. He's important? Data from the phone revealed the Brush and Hunt met in Chateauguay 3 days before the homicide. The Crown theory is that they planned to hit that day. Also, about an hour before the shooting, Hunt used Snapchat, an encrypted messaging app, to send LaBreche the names of 2 streets that intersect close to where the victim was later killed. He also sent Lewis's license plate number to LaBreche. The hunt was on, the prosecutor said. So at 8:17 a.m., Hunt got out of the car and started to walk down Faber Street. We have camera footage of that. After Lewis was shot, Hunt ran back to the Brace's car and is sped away, going through a stop sign. The prosecutor said that because of COVID-19 pandemic, many residents in the area were at home that weekend morning and witnessed parts of what happened. One woman witnessed the shooting up close as she was driving by on Faber Street. Hunt was arrested much later than the Brush was, but his cell phone was also provided evidence. For example, he did internet searches using the terms like Montreal shooting, as well as the names of the victim and his alleged accomplice. He also had a photo of a Montreal Gazette article about Franz Lewis on his phone. The jury is also expected to hear evidence that Hunt left for Toronto shortly after the victim was killed. The trial is expected to last 3 weeks, is presided over by Superior Court Justice Alexander Bouchard. Okay, then. I thought that was going to be something that it wasn't. Check all your quarters for candy. So that was what was going on in Canada that I wanted to go over. It's not as interesting as I thought it was. I still don't understand. What? The dogs of Chernobyl are experiencing rapid evolution. studies suggest. Huh? Okay, I gotta see this. The dogs of Chernobyl are experiencing rapid evolution, studies suggest. A new study analyzed the DNA of feral dogs living near Chernobyl, compared the animals to others living 10 miles away, and found remarkable differences. Okay. For decades, scientists have studied animals living in or near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant to see how increased levels of radiation affect their health, growth, and evolution. A new study analyzed the DNA of 302 feral dogs living near the power plant, compared to the animals compared the animals to others living 10 miles away, and found remarkable differences. While the study doesn't prove that radiation is the cause of these differences, the data provides an important first step in analyzing these irradiated populations and understanding how they compare to dogs living elsewhere. I can't believe this shit's still going on. That was crazy when this happened too. I mean, it was sad. Yeah, on April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear reactor in northern Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union, exploded, sending a massive plume of radiation into the sky. Nearly 4 decades later, the Chernobyl power plant and many parts of the surrounding area remain uninhabited by humans, at least. Yeah, well, duh. I wouldn't step foot in that place. Scientists are studying genetically distinct dogs in Chernobyl. I don't know if I want to see this. Do I want to see this?
Chernobyl disaster site in Ukraine.
They are primarily the descendants of the animals that were left behind at the time of the evacuation during the accident in 1986.
The nuclear accident led to the evacuation of an entire city nearby, essentially left as a ghost town until recent years.
But in the early 2010s, they started to allow some tourism. One of the features of the tour was to visit with the dogs of Chernobyl.
Timothy Mousseau says in 2017 there were 800 to 900 dogs living in the area. That number has gone down as veterinarians and volunteers have come in to conduct wellness clinics and surgeries to prevent more puppies.
We got samples from most
That
of
is
the
so
animals that were
sad.
treated. A significant portion of the DNA that's there is derived from German Shepherd lineage.
Scientists are now focused on the entire genomes of these dogs.
Hopefully we will, uncover some of the mysteries of how the genome responds in a way that will provide clues as to how to deal with, say, cancer and
Ugh,
other kinds of diseases
right.
that result from
They should already know the cure to
increased
cancer by
mutation
now.
rates of various sorts.
Jesus. She outran me. You gave up. It's raining. You have no shoes on. I didn't even think about all the dogs left behind and stuff. Oh my god. I was thinking that maybe one time I would do a live on the Ukraine and what happened with Chernobyl and all that, but I don't think I can handle it. Just seeing those dogs, nah. 300, 600 dogs, like wow. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this tonight. Sorry to make it, well, what has it been, an hour? Yeah, I should go. I know it's Friday, but I'm kind of tired. That sucks. We can't watch the rest of that, whatever the hell we were watching. We can't watch it anymore. It sucks. Because I wanted to learn a bit more, but oh well. Well, I hope you guys have a great Friday night. Tomorrow night I'm doing I don't know if you guys remember when I was doing the I was covering in New York in the 80s and early 90s, about the AIDS pandemic and the serial killer, the last call killer. There's actually another one that was around that time, and he was killing gay people as well. I think his number was 4, I believe. He killed 4 gay men. But I didn't know that. Somebody had to point it out to me and said there was more than just one. I went, whoa. Like I knew there was the 2 that I spoke about. And then turned out there was another guy too. So I'm gonna cover that tomorrow. I think it'll be interesting. All right, you guys have a good night. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And I'll be back tomorrow at 7. Bye.